Okay, we're ready.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone, to the post-secondary destination information session. You can access this and all information on our GDHS website. So Mr. Pursuti here is showing you the website. We've put the information right on the front page for you since it's happening tonight. So there's a link to the Google Meet. If you would like to ask a question, please click this button and it will take you to a Google form, which you can use to ask questions this evening. I'm the department head of guidance, and my name's Miss Tin. I work with students with the last names between H to M. I'd like to introduce the rest of my team. Ms. Foster is here as well. She works with students with last names A to G. And Mr. Pursuti, he works with students with last names N to Z. And all of our emails are on this page if you want to refer to them later on. Today we'll be reviewing lots of information. Don't worry, because this slideshow will be available to you later. You can definitely come back. There's a lot of videos and things we're actually not going to get to today. And there's a lot of information that we're going to be reviewing. So if you missed some of it, feel free to come back and either you can rewatch the video or you can go to the slideshow and take a look at some of the links and useful information that we have here. This is an important document. It's our application timelines document. It was emailed to all grade 12 students a couple of weeks ago. It was also emailed to parents earlier this week. And we also gave paper copies or hard copies to any student that was in a period 1 class. So it's a definitely useful information, has all the useful dates that students need to know about the application process for university and college especially. So the first thing we're going to do this evening is go over some terminology that some of the students may not be aware of, and maybe some of you may not be aware of. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is a certificate. So certificates are a credential that you earn at college, and usually under 4 semesters at college. So that would translate either into a 1-year or 2-year program at college. The next thing is a diploma, and it's a credential earned upon completion of 4 semesters, so 2 years of college. There's also what we call an advanced diploma, which is 3 years of college or 6 semesters. A bachelor's degree is a credential that's earned upon 4 years of a completion of a university, and now many colleges also have bachelor's degree programs. There are also what we call joint and collaborative programs. So they're 4 or 5-year programs where students earn credentials from a college and university. I recently talked to someone from St. Lawrence College, and she mentioned that they have a business degree or program that you could start at St. Lawrence College and then continue, I believe it's with Laurentian University, and then that you would get both a college and university credential. An undergraduate student is a student in their first program at college or university, usually called an undergrad. A graduate student is for those students who love to learn and research, and they're working towards a second or advanced program, such as a master's degree or a PhD. A post-entry or postgraduate program is a program at university where you must complete some university courses or even a full degree before you can apply. So you can't apply to these programs straight from high school. You have to go through university first, and those include things like law, pharmacy, medicine, and dentistry. So we're going to just review some graduation requirements. So the main graduation requirements to obtain your OSSD or your Ontario Secondary School Diploma, the first thing are the 30 credits. There are 18 compulsory credits and 12 elective credits. We've reminded students that they should go on my blueprint and just check that they have everything that they need to graduate. If something doesn't look right on my blueprint, please ask your student to make an appointment to see us, and we can take a look at all their credits to make sure they have what they need. They also, this year, need 20 hours of community involvement. Because of the pandemic, it's not 40 hours this year, but 20 hours. And up to 10 of those hours can be from paid work. There's actually a section on the website under guidance, the guidance tab, where students can actually upload their community service hours. And as well, for the paid work, they need to complete a short form with a reflection explaining how these hours have benefited the community. The last part of the graduation requirements is the OSSLT, or the literacy test. For students graduating this year, so for most of your students, the literacy requirement has been waived. Okay, so if a student graduates this year, their literacy requirement has been waived. If for some reason the student does not graduate this year and has to come back next year, they will have to write the literacy test. If a student comes back, it has graduated and is coming back next year, they to complete some courses, but they wouldn't have to complete the literacy test. So accessing information. So there's a lot of information that students will want to look at to get as much information as possible to make these important decisions about their post-secondary pathway. So one of them is virtual open houses. Unfortunately, a lot of the post-secondary institutions, some of them are not open to visitors yet, but they do have virtual open houses at most of the post-secondary schools. Some of these schools do have some small tours happening as well. You need to check the website to figure out the best way to visit that school. There's also virtual information or chat sessions. Many institutions are hosting live weekly virtual info sessions or presentations. Before the pandemic, we used to have those post-secondary schools come in with a representative to speak to the students one-on-one. But right now, we're not doing that. So this is a good alternative. The Ontario Universities Fair. There was one session that happened on September 25th. And they did have some technical difficulties at the beginning, but they solved those and it was okay after that. There is another one on October 26th, next week. So if you're a student or you didn't have a chance to attend, this is another opportunity to attend. And there's the link in order to register. The colleges are not doing a fair this year. They're having small college info sessions, which are calling College Mondays. So again, here's the link to get more information about that. There's lots of electronic resources as well. For individual pathway planning, I already mentioned my blueprint. If you're interested in our pathways programs, which include things called SHISMs and OYAPs, you can go to haltonpathways.ca. For more information about apprenticeship, apprenticesearch.com is a very informative website that you could use. For college, www.ontariocolleges.ca is the website you would use to both research different programs at different schools and also apply on that same website. There are also individual college and university websites that you can access. As well, for university research, there's for Ontario universities, there's www.ontariouniversitiesinfo.ca, and it helps to research different programs and program information, and we'll go through that in a couple of minutes as well. The last one is the University Application Center. So to apply to Ontario University, you would use this website, www.ouac.on.ca. In order to apply for Ontario universities through this website, students must have a PIN, which will be coming at the end of the month. So I'm going to start talking about our apprenticeship and workplace information and requirements. So the apprenticeship pathway, this is a video, which we're not going to go over today. Um, so for apprenticeships, there's no real strict deadlines to access an apprenticeship via the traditional route. But the earlier you're able to secure a spot or secure an apprenticeship, the earlier you can start earning money and learning about that trade and completing your training hours. What is an apprenticeship? It's a way of learning a skilled trade from a professional tradesperson, which is also called a journey person. So that person mentors you through the trade, teaches you everything they know about that trade. It qualifies people for employment in the skilled trade sectors. 85 to 90% of the training will take place in the workplace. So if your student is a hands-on learner, it's definitely a good alternative for them. They learn all the skills of the trade from that journey person. It's usually about 2 to 5 years in length to finish the apprenticeship. Why a skilled trade? I'm sure you've heard some of this in the media. They've been talking about it for a few years now. But by the year 2025, which isn't so far off now, it's expected that Canada's skilled labor shortage will reach 1.2 million jobs. 40% of all occupations in 2025 will actually be in the skilled trades, so almost half. And 48% of that skilled trade workforce will be eligible to retire in the next 5 years. So there's going to be lots of jobs available in the skilled trades. The route to an apprenticeship. So in terms of high school preparation or planning, doing a co-op placement in an apprenticeship trade will be very useful. So they can figure out if that's the actual trade that they want to do after high school, and also start gaining and getting some of those hours that they need. You can also do a pre-apprenticeship program at college. There's some pre-apprenticeship programs at college that you can do. Also, there's a Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Programs, or OYAP programs. We have 3 of those at our school. We have a automotive OYAP. We have a cosmetology or hairstyling OYAP. And we also have a woodworking, carpentry, construction OYAP. You need to find an employer who's willing to train you in that preferred trade and then sign a registered training agreement. So this is the apprenticeship process simplified. So you need to register, as we mentioned, for that apprenticeship. Then you have the apprenticeship contract, which consists of 3 components. There's a school component, there's a training component, and then you need to earn a specific number of hours. After that, you will receive a certificate of apprenticeship. And then once you've written your final exam, you'll get a certificate of qualification in that trade. If you're interested in an apprenticeship, as I mentioned, one of the websites is one of the best websites to go to is the apprenticessearch.com. There's also a skilled trades website, the Ontario College of Skills Trade website, Apprenticeship in Ontario website, and the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program website. You can also go to, like I mentioned before, Halton Pathways. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the workplace pathway. So again, there's a video if you'd like to check back later, learn a bit more about the workplace pathway. So there are, again, no strict deadlines to applying to a workplace pathway, but the earlier you can secure a position, the earlier you can start, again, earning money and learning and getting your training. There are a few local agencies that will help you find work in the Halton Hills area. One of them that we've used before is VPI Working Solutions. They're an employment agency, and they have a youth job connect program where students are actually able to get training and at the same time look for work and get paid at the same time as well, even before they found a job. So a lot of students find that to be a useful program. And there's also some temp agencies in town as well. We're starting something new this year called our live stream lunches. They include a variety of virtual career presentations from professionals in various fields in our community. Some of the sectors that the speakers will be talking about include business, health and wellness, manufacturing, transportation, hospitality, sports, etc. Some careers, specific careers that speakers will present about include cybersecurity, elevator technician, careers in the performing arts, auto mechanic and entrepreneurship, careers in entertainment, and garage repair technicians, and many more. Because students are, lots of the students have lunch all together now, we're trying to find different ways to, I guess, entertain them. So this is one of the things that we've thought up. If you actually have any contacts for these live stream lunches, please don't hesitate to email us and let us know. Or if you yourself want to speak at one of these live stream lunches, that would be awesome. So these live stream lunches will connect with all pathways from apprenticeship, workplace, college, and university. So students will have an opportunity to attend in person. So room 224, or the co-op room, will be available for students to watch the live stream there, or they can do it on their own from their home at lunch, or maybe from the library. More information will be posted on the website, social media, and sent to you in the Parents Weekly Update. Again, avoid the rush. Beat other potential candidates to apprenticeship and workplace opportunities by securing a position before you graduate, if possible. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Foster, who's going to talk about college and university application information and requirements.
Thanks very much, Ms. Tin. So I'm going to cover the process for applying to both college and university so that you're familiar with that as we move forward. So colleges offer a wide range of programs that are designed to meet some of the evolving needs in the workplace, and they have both a theoretical background as well as a practical application that your student will be learning in their programs there. And most of the college programs last between starting 1 year for a certificate up to 3 years for an advanced diploma program, or potentially moving into a degree program as well. So this website right here that we have the screenshot for is the main website that students will be using to do some research into college programs as well as completing their actual college application. So right at the top where there's the yellow circle around the programs tab, students there can hit that button and then type in a search for a program that they're interested in. They will see a listing of all of the colleges that offer the program, and they can continue clicking through there to find out what are some of the admission requirements. What are the courses they need to be taking now? Will they have to have supplemental applications? What courses would they be taking as part of the college program? And they can link directly to the various colleges to read more in-depth material about those programs. As I said, this is also the website where students will actually be applying to college once they begin the actual application process. So in order for students to be able to apply to college, they need two things. First of all, their OEN number, which is the Ontario Education number you can find on your student's report card. The second thing is just a credit card to pay for it. So the fee is $95, and that includes 5 different program choices with no more than 3 of those at one particular institution. Once you have created an account and you're ready to sign up, you don't worry about submitting separate transcripts. That's all done through OCAS, and we will look after uploading your transcripts. So that way all of the students' marks will be uploaded centrally through this website. The deadline to apply is February the 1st for Ontario colleges, but we do encourage students to apply earlier than that. If you can get your application in before the winter break, that's fantastic. And all of the colleges do also make a note that if your student is applying to a highly competitive program, such as firefighting or paramedic, for example, be sure to get that application in well before the February 1st cutoff date. So in order to apply to college, you need to have your OSSD, your diploma. That needs to also include a grade 12 English. So for a diploma, advanced diploma program, that could be college level grade 12. If you are applying to a degree program at college, that would need to be a U or university level English. And then the rest of the courses would be made up of a variety of grade 11 and 12 courses that meet the requirements of the specific program that you're applying to. You also need to check and make sure that you are competitive in terms of the admission averages. So they'll often list what the previous averages have been, so you have an idea of what that goal is essentially that you want to work towards if you want to be competitive to get into that program. For some particular programs, additional information is required, such as a portfolio, a resume, an audition, interviews, supplemental application forms. And once students have applied, they'll get more specific information about those additional pieces that do need to be submitted. Again, we encourage students to continue to check directly with the college they're interested in to look for all those specifics around prerequisites, the marks that are required in those prerequisites, cutoffs, and some of the fine print that is listed for each of those programs. So a couple key dates here that are also highlighted in that doc that Ms. Tin mentioned earlier with the timing. Right now, the application is open. We call this research season because we are encouraging students to use this time to research all of the available options that are of interest to them. February 1st is that cutoff date for the Ontario colleges. So that's the last date, although we would encourage you to get your application in earlier than that. Students will begin receiving offers of admission later in February and continuing through the spring. And May the 1st is the last date that students can confirm one of those offers that they have received from a college. In June, that's when students, once they've confirmed, will be asked to submit a deposit to secure their space at the college. For university, things are somewhat similar, but a little bit different there. So a degree is a longer program. It's a 4-year program, and it has a much greater degree of theory that students are going to be using in their particular study area of interest. So for students who want to apply to university, they are going to be looking up some of their information on a couple websites here. The Ontario University's information website is extremely helpful as a resource to look up various programs, the requirements to get into those programs, find out summaries of what you would be studying, is there a co-op involved, what experiential learning would be available, etc. The OUAC website is the website that students will use to actually apply to universities within Ontario. So in order to apply, students need to have a few pieces of information. They're going to want to do their research here on the Ontario University's info website. You can search for programs through the tab up at the top that says programs. So students can type in something they're interested in, for example, kinesiology. And then once they click on that, they're going to find out specifics in terms of that program at a particular school. So this page shows you, for example, kinesiology at Queen's University, and you would need to check out, even though it's the same program, you would need to look this up for each of the schools you're thinking of applying to. So it tells you that it's a degree-based program. It gives you the code that you'd be applying to at OUAC, the grade range. So you can see here starting at 84% plus, and that would be based on your 6 U or M level courses, including required courses. Experiential learning, if it's available. They tell you the number of students who would be admitted to that program. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see the admission requirements. So anyone who's hoping to apply to this program would need to have ENG 4U, biology 4U, advanced functions, and then 2 of either calculus, chemistry, or physics, and then 1 additional U or M level course. If you have you're in an IB program, then you can click on these links for additional AP and IB information if you're looking for more specifics. So this is a great resource for students to begin looking at now and researching the programs that they're interested in. We would definitely encourage you to read some of the fine print here to find out, are there minimum averages that you must have in particular required courses? You can see here there's a note about engineering admission and how it's calculated. If there are supplemental applications, all of that will be included, as well as the university's policy on repeated courses, summer school, alternative offers. So all of that type of information is available both through this website, or students can look directly at the university to which they're thinking of applying. So when it comes time to actually apply, students do need a PIN number to apply to Ontario universities, and that number will become available to them at the end of the month or the beginning of November. The fee to apply to University in Ontario through OUAC is $150, and that gets each student 3 choices. They can purchase additional choices for $50 each if they want to widen their range of opportunity and apply to other additional programs. The cutoff date for those university applications is January the 13th. Again, we encourage students to apply before the winter break to get that application in, and they're going to be using the undergrad 101 form when they're applying on the Ontario University's Application Centre website. So to apply to university, students must have ENG4U, so University Grade 12 English, and then 5 other university or college/university M-level courses, which we often refer to as the top 6, and that must include required courses, so which would be English and everything, as well as any other requirements for the program that you're interested in. As we mentioned with the colleges, sometimes these programs will also take into account things like portfolios, resumes, interviews, auditions and performance pieces, additional supplemental applications in the admission process. So sometimes it's not entirely based on marks. And most schools, except for McMaster, say that they will also be looking at grade 11 marks. So that's something that we're making students aware of, that the universities will have access to those grade 11 marks and potentially be considering those in their decision-making process. So again, we encourage students to check very carefully with the university for the fine print, what some of those cutoffs are and all of those required courses. In terms of important dates for university application, so as of today, the student information in terms of previously completed grade 11 and 12s, as well as the courses students are enrolled in now, that's been uploaded to OUAC. And then right now, again, we're in the research phase where students are continuing to research. Once students have their PIN, they can begin applying here. So those applications must be received by January the 13th, and then students will begin to receive offers of early admission on a rolling basis. May the 27th is the last date by which a student should have received an offer from a school, and by June 1st, they need to confirm whether or not they want to accept the offers that they've received. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Prizzuti now, who's going to cover some problem solving for us.
Thanks. So I just want to remind everyone that if you do have a question, there is a form on the main high school website. So that's go.hdsb.ca. And beside the link to access this presentation is a Google form to submit a question. So if you do have any questions, then that's the way to submit them, and then we'll answer them at the end. So as you do that, I'm going to talk about, as Ms. Foster says, some more problem solving things. So what does happen if after applying to college or to university, your actually does not get an offer of admission? So our first piece of advice would be not to panic, because places and spaces in programs will open up as those schools determine the number of acceptances that their applicants are actually doing. In other words, some schools might send out offers, but then they actually get rejections from the students because those students chose a different school. So as those schools get the marks, your semester 1 finals, the semester 2 midterms, but also other anecdotal things or actual data on their part, such as students not accepting their offers. They're then more comfortable sending out more offers. So I would say certainly don't panic, because space does open up over time. If students do want to continue to apply after the due date, that may be possible. So there are some programs at college and at university where after that equal consideration date, there is still space left in the program. In other words, there's not as many people that applied to those programs than there are spaces. So there's more space available. So you can certainly continue to apply to those even after the deadline. That is one option. But also late admissions are possible up to the start of the fall term. A couple of years ago, we did have a student that was supposed to come back for grade 13, and the Thursday before Labor Day, they were contacted by university and offered their admission then, and they packed the car and went off to school that day. So it's possible. That doesn't happen very often. It isn't very likely in many cases, but it is possible. So one thing you might want to think about for your student is, are they going to look at summer school maybe to increase some marks, and would the school be okay with that? And of course, it would be up to the student to inform the college or the uni that they are planning to do summer school, and see if that school is okay with it, and then have those transcript of marks sent off. So we also have lots of students that do come into the guidance office asking about schools that are actually not in Ontario, perhaps outside of the province or even internationally. And unfortunately for those students, there isn't a centralized website or a central organization that houses every application at every school across the entire world. That just doesn't exist. It does exist, of course, for colleges here in Ontario. That would be the OCAS, Ontario Colleges website, and OUAC for university, as Ms. Foster said. So if you are, or your student is considering going to a school outside, or at least applying to a school outside of Ontario, you would need to have your student look at that school's website and apply directly on that school's website. Of course, each school, McGill will have its own fee, and UBC will have its own fee, and Dalhousie out east will have its own fee as well. But you will apply on each of those schools' website as an out-of-province applicant. And some schools, there's about 10 or 11 of them in Canada, that do use OUAC to transmit marks. So if your student is going to be applying in Ontario and elsewhere, it is possible to input the OUAC code on your application. And the only way that you would know if that's something that your school that you're thinking about offers would be on the application. It actually says right there, OUAC code. And that way you would know. You put in that code, and then your marks would be transmitted automatically. Otherwise, emailing from a guidance secretary, Ms. Petty, or even snail mailing, and sometimes official documents and official transcripts may be required. Of course, each school is going to have their own fee, their own deadline, their own timeline of events and next steps. So it's really up to the student to make sure that they're following all those things. And of course, we are here to help and support them with their applications. So how do you choose the school and the program that's right for you? So first and foremost, what I would say is the program even offered at the school that you would be interested in going to. So I had a student in my office a couple of weeks ago who said they wanted to go to University of Guelph. It's local. They wanted to stay local and drive there. And they were desperate to be a teacher. So they wanted to do concurrent education at the University of Guelph. And I said, that's great. But unfortunately, that program doesn't exist at that school. So you have to make sure that whatever program that your student is interested is actually offered at that school. Each school, of course, would have their own prerequisites. So as Ms. Foster said, kinesiology at Queen's may and likely does have different prerequisites than kinesiology at McMaster or U of T, etc. So similar programs may have different prerequisites, and therefore one program your student may be ineligible to apply to if they didn't take one specific course. Of course, they need to also make sure they meet the cutoffs for programs, and those differ by institution. So while that kinesiology example did say 84% plus, that does not guarantee admission. The 84% plus simply means last year, that was the minimum cutoff of last year's applicants that the school considered those applicants for. In other words, you may have had an 85 or an 86 or an 87 last year, but you're still not the right fit based on any number of reasons that that school thought. Maybe it's a particular mark in a particular class, or anything else from a supplemental application. So all the admission requirement grade cutoff means is that you need to meet that cutoff for consideration, and oftentimes you need to exceed that grade cutoff in order to be competitive for an acceptance for that program. Other considerations that you and your student might be thinking about is additional criteria, such as supplemental forms, portfolios, interviews, testing, resumes. Lots of colleges for some health science programs do require extra tests to be done. Are those things that your student is willing to do? So if they are, that's great, and that opens up options for post-secondary choice. But if they're not willing to go to that extra step, and some students are not willing to do that, that may limit some of the options of where you would be interested in having your student apply to. One important thing to note is supplemental forms. Many schools require or request them or suggest them, but you don't do that at the time you apply. That does come later. Other considerations are the size, the location, the feel of campus. Do you, or I guess as your student, really want to attend a small town? Do they want that small town experience where they feel perhaps a little bit more connected to their instructors and professors? Or do they prefer that large, sprawling campus in downtown where there are small fish in the big pond? Those are all considerations. The size, the location. Do you want your student to drive there, to commute, or to live in a different community? One thing we do always say is to visit. And certainly that is more challenging now. Because of the pandemic. Some schools are offering in-person visits and some schools are not. So it is challenging in some ways to explore the campuses, but each and every one of them are offering virtual tours, virtual connections to the recruitment and admission staff. So while in-person things may not be as common, there are actually a lot more opportunities to meet with staff than there ever were before, because they never used to do these virtual sessions. That is a symptom of the pandemic and how they've adapted themselves. So now everyone's favorite part, the financial costs. So how much does it cost? We're looking somewhere between $14,000 to $25,000 per year for college. So Ms. Foster and Ms. Tin and I have done a lot of work this fall to look at what the average tuition fee for a variety of programs across Ontario colleges are. So on the low end in terms of cost would be a 1-year certificate, maybe a 2-year diploma. The lowest one that we noticed was around $2,400. That spans all the way to $7,000 for that 4-year bachelor's degree at college. So yes, $2,400 to $7,000 is a wide variety, but certainly that is somewhere in there is what you're looking at in terms of tuition fees. On top of tuition fees, there would be student fees. So whether that is additional charges from the university or from the student union, those are additional costs, as well as books and supplies. Those would be additional costs that the student would have to incur themselves. In terms of accommodations, $5,000 for that multi-room, that dormitory style, up to $7,000 if you want the single apartment style residence. And of course, if your student is not thinking about going off to campus somewhere else out of town, far away, and therefore doesn't need accommodation, I mean, you could probably substitute the accommodation line for vehicle costs, right, and gas. So that's probably comparable there. Utilities, food, and some miscellaneous entertainment and just general expenses. That's what we are estimating the average cost of university to be per year over at least most recent data that we've looked at from our colleges. In terms of university, it is more. We're looking at somewhere between $20,000 to $32,000 per year. And I did show this slide to some staff members that we have at the school who teach certainly some grade 12 classes themselves, but they also have students that are in university, and they were like, yep, that is about right, if not exactly what the average cost of university is these days. So that is, their experience as well. Tuition for university is a little bit higher. You're looking somewhere between $6,000 to $9,000. And those student fees, those union fees, those athletic fees that each student is required to pay, you can't opt out of those. Those are a little bit higher at uni. For books and supplies, because it's more theoretical work, you're looking at more money. And I can attest to the fact as a university grad, I'm sure many of you are as well. each textbook can cost up to $200 itself, right? So if you're looking at 5 courses per semester, just the simple cost of a textbook or course materials does add up. Residence at university is a lot of money. Again, low end $6,000. $6,000 you're looking for that dormitory style, multiple beds in one room, up to more apartment style that may have a kitchenette. And what you see here is the next line down, meal plan. Yeah, that is somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. There's usually a number of different options for meal plans, low end, high end. Of course, if you have a kitchenette, maybe your meal plan is on the lower end. And if you're a dormitory and you don't have a kitchenette, then you would have to perhaps buy one of the higher end meal plans. But it's important to note that meal plans are required as part of residence. So you can't really opt out of those. If you're looking at a co-op program, that's an additional fee plus some miscellaneous expenses. So that's how we tabulate the increasing costs of college and university these days. So I guess the question comes down to, how do you pay for all this? Certainly scholarships and awards are something that we have already had some students come in and talk to us about. We showed them this presentation earlier this week, and we did have some students come down concerned about the cost. It is a lot. So there are lots of things that you can do and what your student can do to contribute, whether it's scholarships and awards. There are millions and millions of dollars in unclaimed scholarships and awards across the country each and every year. There are bursaries and grants that students can apply for based on financial need. Of course, there's the Ontario Student Assistance Program from the Ontario government, OSAP. We will have a parent evening on the OSAP application process in semester 2. So look out in semester 2, probably around March or April, for information from the school on another evening, more likely going to be a virtual event like tonight. And then, of course, some student contribution. Maybe they've saved up over the year, birthday and just general presents, or their own work that they have done, part-time jobs. They've saved up some money. Let's hope that that's the case. Parental subsidy or RESPs, gifts, as I've heard of students get graduation gifts for graduating high school. No pressure, parents, for that, because I certainly did not get that when I was in high school or university, I can tell you that. But if those are things that are of consideration, then perhaps that's a way for your student to save some money. And perhaps the student line of credit at any of those financial institution banks may be a cheaper interest rate than OSAP as well. In terms of accessibility services, each and every college and each and every university across the province will have an accessibility services office. So unfortunately, an IEP, an individualized education plan, does not transfer automatically to a post-secondary school, college, or university. It is something that is a legal document in high school, but not really at post-secondary. So first and foremost, students with IEPs should speak to their CERT, their special education resource teacher, about the transition plan to post-secondary. And then once they actually accept that offer for a school in semester 2, most likely, if your student has an IEP and they want that additional support, we strongly encourage that they contact accessibility services immediately. And accessibility services are quite clear that they do want those meetings to happen very, very soon. As soon as they do accept the offer, they can reach out and book an appointment with the accessibility staff to discuss your individual needs. You would have to bring a copy of your IEP or your child's IEP. I'm sure the student, is now going to be an adult and they'll be doing this themselves rather than mom and dad going with them. So they will have to bring the IEP with themselves and any supplemental documentation with them. I have heard colleges and universities say that they would like to see a psych ed report, a psychological education report that is dated within the last 5 years. So if a student comes with a report diagnosing, a learning disability or something like that, but it's dated back to grade 5, that may not be sufficient for a college or university. But any other documentation that you have, certainly send with your student when they go for their appointment. The best website for this would be transitionresourceguide.ca. And that website has collated all the accessibility service contact information across all colleges and universities across the province. So we only have a couple of questions, but what we thought we would do is we would put together our most frequently asked questions first. So these are questions that we get asked every year by all students, usually, that come down to our office, and certainly by parents at parents' nights like tonight or in a phone call we deal with. So we thought we would put together our frequently asked questions and what our answers would be for those. So in terms of our first question, it's kind of multi points here. So we kind of get some confusion after we do this presentation. So wait, when do I apply? When would I hear back? And when do I do scholarships? So what we thought we would do is we would break this down into seasons. And so right now, early fall, early on in the grade 12 year, we say that this is research season. This is the time that students need to be researching what their post-secondary options would be, using the websites that Ms. Tin mentioned at the start and Ms. Foster kind of did a breakdown through for college and for university. In November and December, we call that application season. So that is when students should actually finalize what their research actually is and then press apply on ontariocolleges.ca for college and on the OUAC website for university. That's the application season. I would strongly recommend, same as Ms. Foster said, please do not have your student return in January and not have applied if that's something that they're going to do. We want that taken care of by or over the winter break. And so when they come to school back in January, that they are ready for learning and ready for the performance tests and exams. We don't think that extra stress is a good idea for January, because in some cases, some of these schools do have supplemental documentation. So we call the January and February months the truth be told season. This is when your student hopefully achieves the best marks completely possible in their semester one. Sometimes we do have students that are so hyper-focused on their admissions and do you think that I can get a good mark in this? And do you think that I can get into this program? And they're so focused on that they are less focused on the actual academics of what's happening in their class and handing in their work and doing the best on their assignments and on their tests. So what we say is, hopefully in January and February, you've achieved the best marks possible, and then you can start to work on your supplemental documentation. As semester two starts, that's what we call the waiting game. That is the waiting game season, where it is just you wait for the offers. Sometimes you will get the offer of admission. Of course, they're always going to be conditional that you actually graduate high school. So there will be some conditions of some sort. Perhaps your child or your student might get an alternate offer of admission. Perhaps they've applied to a program where they didn't meet that cutoff average, but the school has automatically considered them for something else. So that might be something that they hear from a school. The school might say they're full for this program. There were students that had higher grades or whatever their criteria were, but we have put you on a waiting list. So that could be something you hear. And then, of course, unfortunately, in some cases, there are refusals and rejections that are sent from universities to students without some alternate offers. To note that whatever the conditions are in the offer, that the student has to meet all those conditions to keep the offer valid. So often that is an overall admission average on those top 6 URM for university, or an overall mark in English or math for some college programs, or science, those sorts of things. But in some cases, it is an overall GPA as well that you need to keep up, or that no mark can go below a certain point. They will also say whether they accept summer school sometimes in those offers. So you would know if that's an option in case something does go wrong in semester 2. While the waiting game happens and the students just sit back and wait, we hope that they don't just do that and that they are actively searching for scholarships. Scholarship season is around February to May, so most scholarships are winter to spring. That is generally when they all are. There are a handful of, pristine national scholarships that are on now in the fall, but there are not many of those because they're most in the winter and spring. And then May and June is the confirmation season. That's typically when students have to accept an offer or are required to pay deposits. So yes, before your student even leaves grade 12, they're likely going to have to pay the university or the college some sort of tuition deposit. So another common question that we get would be early acceptances. When are they sent? How are early acceptances determined? I first and foremost would say that they're not as common as you think they are. A lot of students are so, again, hyper-focused on getting early acceptances because they heard someone in December got an acceptance. And yes, that does happen, but it's not as common as you may think, because not all schools and certainly not all programs send out early acceptances. early acceptances are really only offered to students in two scenarios. One, because they have extraordinarily high final marks in grade 11 courses from last year, or if they happen to have taken any grade 12 courses last year. So we're talking students who are 95, 95, 96, 98, 99 across the board in their grade 11 courses. And those schools are pretty confident that those grade 12 marks are going to reflect something similar. So that's the first scenario, that those students often get early acceptances. And then the other reason that early acceptances may happen would be because it's a school that is actively recruiting more students to attend their school. Oftentimes that is outside the GTA, outside of this local area. It would be more rural schools or northern schools that maybe don't have as many applicants, and so they're trying to lure students in with an early acceptance, or maybe some money, an entrance scholarship of some sort. So yes, they do happen. If they happen, it would be maybe December, January, but they're not as common because it's really only in those two circumstances. Another question we get very frequently is, what are supplemental application forms? So supplemental application forms provide the applicant to provide other data that is not just the transcript that we send off. Because without the supplemental forms, all the schools will honestly see are all the grade 11 marks and all the grade 12 marks. So it's an opportunity to fill in a supplemental form to give the school other considerations. Maybe there's some tragedy that has happened in the student's life, and they have had to overcome that adversity, and they have really been committed to their studies because of something they've experienced in their personal life. Most schools will have an opportunity, a supplemental form that you can submit to admissions for consideration. It really is another opportunity for you to list additional skills, to list those additional opportunities, the part-time jobs, the things that you have done, or you as the applicant have done, the personal qualities for consideration in the admission process. Because all they're seeing is marks, and that's all they're going to base it on unless you submit these things. There are some schools that suggest, recommend, or require these forms. And as I said a little bit earlier, you do not submit them when you press apply on the application websites. What happens is you press apply, and then the student will hear from the school in the next couple days. Hey, thank you for applying to York University. Here is your York University email and your York University password for our internal portal. Log into our internal portal and find your next steps. And I know Queens does the same thing. So they contact and they say every applicant has a to-do list of things that they must do. Some of the Queens programs ask that they must write an essay or some supplemental forms. So all this to say that the supplemental forms typically come after. Sometimes, though, for portfolio, some fine arts programs, that may be part of the application process. So it's really important for students to look to see when those supplemental forms are. However, generally speaking, the general rule of thumb is they do come after. What is the general policy on repeated courses? Sometimes this happens with students that are or that they're in a specific course in semester 1 and they're considering repeating that same course in semester 2. So what we would say in guidance is, from our research with colleges and universities, is that colleges will accept the higher grade, typically, general rule of thumb. But of course, each school is different, and it would be the student's responsibility to check the individual policy at that school. Degree programs at college and universities, again, also typically accept the highest grade for a repeated course. However, there are some programs and there are some schools where they specifically state that they do not accept repeated courses, or that they reserve the right to dock 5% or some other amount. That is all fine print that you could find on the university's specific website for admissions, or their admissions page for that specific program, or on the Ontario University's info website. So one school that does come to mind is Waterloo. They specifically say that repeating a course does not mean a mastery of material. It just means you're more familiar with the material, but doesn't mean that you have a better understanding. And I have read that right on their website just this week. So of course, this policy completely differs school by school. Some are more particular, some are more flexible with it. And so it's really, really important for the applicant to check the individual policy at each school. The other question that we get a lot, particularly as semester 2 rolls on, is what's the general policy on summer school courses? And again, maybe it's kind of a vague answer, but the answer is you have to check the individual school, because some don't accept it, and that's just unfortunately the case. The general rule of thumb, again, is that most do accept summer schools grades. Most are okay with that. And there would be a process for you to, or I keep saying you as if I'm talking to students, but it is parents tonight. There is a process for the applicant to notify the school that they're taking summer school. So that would be something that's, again, internal to each school's internal portal, and you would find that information. But general rule of thumb is they do accept it, especially in previous years, like grade 11 and grade 12, the summer between there. The transcripts do have to be sent from summer school, and summer school in our school board is run by the Gary Allen school. And so Gary Allen summer school staff would typically every summer ask students, hey, do you need this grade for university? If so, fill out this form and tell us where to send the transcript to. Some universities, though, are very, very, very strict on this, including McMaster University. And McMaster is very clear that they do not accept any summer school courses in the summer between grade 12 and university. I was in that session with McMaster yesterday, I think it was yesterday, and the representative said the school year ends June 30th. That's it. So all marks have to be in by June 30th. So that's their policy. And then other schools, like University of Waterloo, they ask students to fill in one of those supplemental application forms that I was telling you about earlier to explain, to list, and effectively to justify the reasoning behind why they took any course outside of the regular school day. I don't know what they do with that information, nor do either of any other guidance counselors. They just want that information. Unfortunately, what happens behind closed doors in the admission office happens behind closed doors, and we don't know what they do with that information. But they do ask for it, particularly at the University of Waterloo. So it's really up to the student to do their research to see what kind of policies there are for repeated courses and summer school. A question we're getting quite a bit now because of the pandemic, and we're not sure what next year looks like, is can I defer an acceptance until next school year? And again, the answer is unfortunately differs school by school. Most do offer deferral, speaking, maybe sometimes not for one program here or not this program, but deferrals do exist. They are a thing that exists. They're certainly being used more often by students these days because of the life that we're living with the pandemic, but the school will determine any conditions. Generally, those are you can't defer if you're going to go to a different school. So you can't defer university acceptance to take a 1-year certificate program at college, or you can't defer a college or a university acceptance to do grade 13 at Georgetown High School. They will not allow that. So you would need to take the year to do something else, gap year, volunteer, work, etc. Effectively, what happens, you typically apply to the school, you get your offer, you have to accept your offer and then request a deferral. But again, those deferrals are not automatic, and it is oftentimes a case-by-case basis. You'd have to contact the school to work through that deferral process. So that's pretty much our entire presentation. Apart from the questions that people are starting to submit, there's only a handful of them, not many. But we do want to remind you that there's this important document that has all the dates that we spoke about today. For our applicants, we did hand this out, a paper copy, to every student in period 1. We have emailed it to them, I think, twice now. It is on our website, and certainly it's linkable through this slideshow as well. If you do have any questions, please do contact us. Our emails are there. Ms. Foster works with students whose last names are A to G. Ms. Tin works with H to M as last names, and I work at the end of the alphabet, last names N to Z. You can find all of this information. This slideshow is available. Right now it's on the homepage of the whole school website. It's not going to stay there forever. It will be, it is housed and it does live on our post-secondary planning section of the website. So if I maybe I'll just share that tab just to show you how to access that again, because that is one of the questions. Is this presentation available afterwards? So the answer to that is yes. If you just go to the guidance, if you go to the main school website, click guidance, and click post-secondary planning. This slideshow on the left is right here, and the timeline document is right there. So that's one question. So we also have a couple other questions. I don't know if Ms. Tin or Ms. Foster wants to answer this one. How long, on average, does it take to fill out the university application? How long does it actually take to fill out the university application on the OUAC website?
So Mr. Pasuti and I, one year, I think, a student had medical issues, so we helped them to fill out the application. And just to fill out the application on OUAC did not take that much time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. What's time consuming is the research. So if you're going on there with no idea what program or what school you're going to, then it will take you a long time, because then you'll have to refer to other things and go back, and that's what would take a lot of time. As well, some of those supplemental things that the schools will ask for later on, those might take a bit of time as well, but the actual application to OUAC does not take very much time at all.
Great. So the next question is, how do awards and scholarships work? Where and when do you apply, and how would we learn more about them? So probably the best place to start there would be on our school website again. So let me go to our school website. So again, the guidance tab, and scroll down to scholarships. So on our scholarships webpage of the school website, we have linked first and foremost the HDSB scholarship website. So this is a website where all the counselors in Halton District, we all sat together and we created this website, finding all the, the big ones that are available. The good thing about this site is it is broken down by region. So it's broken down by scholarships that are specific to students in Halton Hills versus students specific to Milton, Burlington, and Oakville. So that's one great website. It's also broken down by scholarship deadline. Most certainly, it does not have every scholarship. I don't even think that any of us know a fraction of the scholarships that are available out there in the province or in the country, because there are just so many different scholarships that exist. There are private companies. There are rich people that just want to hand out scholarships. There are charities. So there's no possible way for us to know every possible scholarships. But what we have done is we have linked some highlighted scholarships. And by highlighted, I mean these scholarships, the Black Business Professional Association or the Canadian Federation of University Women, whoever they are, they're actively promoting their scholarships, and they are sending them directly to us guidance counselors through email or through snail mail here at the school. So when it's kind of sent directly to us, we send it directly to by posting it on this website. So yes, it is hard to apply for scholarships because you have to do a lot of the research yourself. And there's a lot here, obviously, that are just local ones or ones that, again, that have been promoted to us locally here at the school. But then there's easier ways to apply to scholarships, and that would be to do a scholarship database. So the three that we often refer students to would be ScholarTree, Scholarships Canada, and Wyconic. The best way to describe this would be, it's like online dating for scholarships, where you make a profile, you put in everything that you do, your leadership, your personal qualities, and then you press search and it matches you to scholarships. So because it's the easiest way, everyone does that. And so it made your results in terms of the amount of money you get out of it or the amount of wins that you get out of it may not be as high versus doing the hard work to locate those scholarships. But certainly meeting with your guidance counselor is a great way to get started, and the website. There will also be an opportunity for graduation ceremony, the commencement ceremony in June, for students to advocate or to self-advocate or self-nominate for awards at the school. And these would be awards that are specific to grade 12 students at Georgetown High School. And we as a committee, we sit down together and we look at all the students who self-nominated and their reasoning for that. And that's another opportunity for students to earn money. Only one more question, which is the presentation available after? So yes, it is. It's on the post-secondary planning website. So I'm sure that question came in before, but just to review, it's on the post-secondary planning subpage of our website.
Mr. Prizzuti, if I can also just tag on to the question about scholarships, that in addition to all of those scholarships listed on our website, it's really important for students to do their research and investigate at the university or college to which they're applying to see which scholarships are available there. And some of those will be guaranteed entrance scholarships that if you have a set average, you will automatically be entitled to a certain amount of money. Other scholarships are more detailed and more competitive, and you'll be filling out an application process. Then additionally, the universities and colleges do also offer bursaries, and those take into account financial need. And so you want to investigate which bursaries or potentially work-study programs that the college or university you're applying to offers, and apply for any of those if you are eligible as well.
Yeah, good point. Because you and I, we were looking at the scholarship deadlines, and Ms. Tin were looking yesterday, and the dates are quite different. One school says their scholarship deadline is February 1st. Another one says it's June 1st. So it just depends on each school. And by that, I mean university or college. They have their own application deadlines, and there's no consistency between them on when their post-secondary scholarships deadlines are. Yeah, good point. Okay, I think that's it for us. Thank you so much for following along with us tonight. Again, all the information is there on the website. We have emailed all the students asking them to book appointments with us to review their graduation plans and to review what their post-secondary plans are. So if you could encourage your student to reach out to us to book an appointment with us directly, they can do that on the guidance website. So thank you so much, and good luck as your student goes through the application process this year. Thanks, everyone.